Mostly welcome. Not many people can spend a better Friday at lunchtime, if you ask me, but I am hugely biased. For those of you that aren't familiar with Community Energy London, we're a group of organisations across the capital which help do community energy projects. These could be anything on solar, EV car clubs, fuel poverty energy advice projects, and anything and everything in between. As Catherine just mentioned, she's just come out of a 2-hour solar meeting, bless her, and she's masochistically jumped into this one. So here we go, we're here for it. We are here for it. Now, this is the fourth in a series of 6 workshops that we're doing to help people either start or scale up or improve how they currently deliver fuel poverty interventions, particularly around energy advice. And today we are looking at the meat on the bones, if you like. We are looking at how to provide effective energy efficiency and fuel poverty tackling advice. And I'm sure everybody on this call is more than painfully aware of the current circumstances around energy costs and bills and the increased amount of vulnerable people in our communities, and let alone against the backdrop of the climate crisis. So just doing a quick run through today, we're going to have some speakers on setting and kind of national context to hear from NEA, and that's the lovely Rebecca. Give us a wave. Hello. Nice to see you. Are you beaming in from Brighton?
No, I don't live in Brighton anymore.
Oh.
But I am still on the coast, so I'm down on the south coast still, just a bit further west.
Oh, nice. We're also going to be hearing from Giles from Thinking Works. Afternoon, sir. And we're going to hear from Sharifa from Bromley by Bow Centre. And these are organisations who are members of Community Energy London who are out there and doing it. And to hear about how they do their energy advice interventions and any sort of learnings, feedback, thoughts, feelings about the current situation, about providing effective energy advice. And then at the end, we're going to have a time for questions. So as we go through, either pop them in the chat or make a mental note so we can, you know, get our pound of flesh out of these experts we've got access to today.
I'm not going to be able to stay right until the end.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I've got to phone clients.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, hopefully, if there's anything that is burning that happens during Rebecca's, please pop it in the chat, and she will expertly field it that way because I've seen her do it before.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so just a bit of scene setting. Next slide, please. So firstly, if we've never done it before, some people might feel very nervous about it because providing advice is their responsibility at the end of the day, and it's more loaded and it can feel heavier when we are trying to target working with vulnerable households. So there's an extra responsibility and we don't take it lightly. However, it is effectively unregulated in the sense that it's not, even though it's connected to money and spending and bills, it's not constituted as money advice. The FCA that does sort of drill down into the difference between guidance and advice, but you can see from the description there that actually it is not classed as being a regulated area. There's a link at the bottom of the slides which will be available for further reading and follow up after this session, but I just wanted to reassure some people that might have not got started with this type of project yet and might have concern around that. Next slide. When I've seen a couple of groups get involved with Advice UK when they were starting to do advice and information and guidance work, and they found it, some of them, feedback I found has been, they found it useful just from a regular getting policies in place, cheaper insurance, a couple of other things, and they do have a really good track record of helping people get going doing advice work in the communities, especially with people who are, I think, to quote, less well-off people, tackle unfairness, injustice and poverty, and we're here for that. So they're an organisation that's worth looking at if you want to kind of get more well briefed on the side of things about that could be applicable for any type of organisation looking at doing work like this. Next slide. Insurance, most advice, if you've got public liability insurance and professional liability insurance, if you're an individual and a worker in this space, but there's people like Nature Save. I meant to put two other options in there, my apologies. But generally there's third sector organisation insurance out there, but I wasn't on commission from Nature Save and only just put them. But there's, yeah, so Advice UK created their own insurance setup, so they're worth having a look at. And I was trying to give three because I always like to show a degree of impartiality, and the names escape me. I'll look it up later if it doesn't come to me. Next slide. However, I just have to say that if you're looking at risk of doing this, I haven't yet heard, touch wood, of a client coming back and trying to sue an organisation because of advice they'd received from an energy advisor. We have it all covered by various different types of insurance, depending on what type of work we've done with different organisations I'm talking about here. But I have never ever heard of anyone getting into hot water from that point of view. But it's always better to have belts and braces than not to have anything at all. So just to break it down generally, if we're talking about home energy advice, what kind of things are we talking about? There's main areas that we look at: income maximisation, energy efficiency, and I break that down into three areas, basically small and no and low cost measures, which could be on a home visit or handed out at an energy cafe or workshop, or they're large measures that you might help the household access grant funding for, and also changing how things are done, i.e. stop wasting energy unnecessarily. There's also other things around it like priority service register, warm home discount, and winter payments, including the winter fuel allowance, as well as the I can't remember what they're calling, the £150 that are getting paid to people that on PIP that now aren't eligible for warm home discount. And also other signposting to other organisations that are really relevant. It could be around debt, it could be around health, it could be around safety, all these sorts of examples. So there's a slogan that many public health organisations use, which is make every opportunity count. So every interaction we have, yes, we've got our primary objective to help people save energy and money, but there's all these, while we've got them there might be other things that we can also signpost to while having the conversation. Next slide, please. Just a couple more. So how you deliver energy advice can almost be as important as what the content, the information. So questioning skills, active listening, positive phrasing, effective tone of voice, and non-verbal communication awareness is really important, because, you know, I could be telling you the best information in the world, but if I've got my arms crossed, not looking at somebody in the eye and, you know, doodling while I'm talking to them, it's not going to be the most effective session for either the organisation or project, as well as, more importantly, the client. So building this into any training or development programs is a really good idea. And we can often get in there in ways that local authorities and even energy companies can't get to, because people might have certain feelings around either of those two. I won't say any more. But having the opportunity to be impartial, friendly, local, and that face-to-face interaction often, where it's just rarer these days, can really bring about some very impressive results. So just a little stat there, if you're interested in the communication skills, some research from Abraham years and years ago. On the phone, 83% of communication is down to how you say it. And that goes to 38% in face-to-face reactions, so at 55% is still down to body language. So it's still important that we know all the information, we've got the right advice, we can customize what we're doing while being consistent, but also it's just as much as important about how we do it, even in what language or the setting even. And also asking clients for feedback via different mediums, because if you don't monitor things, you don't know how well you're doing, and you can't then evaluate the effectiveness of the advice, which might seem a bit obvious to state, but you never know. And it can also then yield results that you can put into funding bids to do more of this good work. So it's a really good idea to track that. And also make sure that you've got all your you've got a GDPR statement in place, you've got your safeguarding policy and all the other things that you need to do, which we've covered in other sessions, or you might ask for a deeper dive in a future programme. Next slide, please. Nearly there. So just on the left-hand side is just all the different types of energy-related action you could cover during a session with any of the energy advisors that are active in the community at the moment. And as you can see, it's quite a long list, but you might just start off with one or two. Probably this year and future years, we won't be having to do so much awareness raising around the warm home discount, because touch wood, it will be automatic, but maybe this year it's still worth keeping a light awareness of it, just in case for anyone that falls through the gaps. But as you can see, there's lots of areas and all of these are continually moving, and it's quite a job just keeping up with it. So next slide. Yes, we will get a copy of the slides, Belinda, as you've signed up. So who could be delivering this advice? It could be your paid workers, you could be doing it via social media campaigns, you've got your volunteers, general members, or you might train up other organisations locally to give referral partners a boost to what they already do. But if you want to really know the power of frontline referral partnerships, they take a lot to set up, but they are really the best way to really get in there, as it were. And Brenda Boardman's book is still kind of, I mean, I don't know how old it is now, getting on for 25 years-ish, but it's still, the kind of core messages in it are still very relevant. And I think it's coming up to the last one. Oh, yes, that was a lucky guess. So that was a whistle-stop tour of all things energy advice for a context scene setting view. And now I am delighted to hand over to Rebecca from National Energy Action.
Lovely. Hello, everybody. Bit weird that I can't see most of your faces. So if anybody wants to put their video on, that would be really nice, because I'm just talking to lots of black boxes, which is very disconcerting. Thank you. Oh, that's much nicer. There are people here after all. Okay, hi. So hello, everybody. So I worked out this year, I've been giving energy advice in fuel poverty for 16 years. That is quite astonishing. So I've kind of seen it all, done it all, and been through all the changes of before and after COVID. Now, the way we give energy advice at National Energy Action is, you know, pretty much what Alex has already sort of set out. It's, you know, it's kind of common sense stuff. But what I thought I would share with you was the insights that I've had from my experience of actually had to really help people, because it's great to have like a list of things that you want to check with people, but it's the human element that will actually help you help them get the help. So I've done, you know, I've done marketplace events, I've gone to people's homes, I've done stuff over the phone, I've had one-to-one appointments, done all sorts of stuff like that. And what I found always works the best is being friendly and chatty, to be honest. If you stand in front of a client, or you go in someone's home and you've got your clipboard in front of you and you're going through it like that, and like Alex said, you're not getting any eye contact, or you are sitting at an event and you've got your laptop open in front of you and you look up to see the client, no, they will not engage with you. They won't. They'll think that you are unofficial, And as you can see, I'm somebody who tends to very rarely turn up looking like an official. To be honest, now at all events, I go along with my dungarees on because I can put my pen in the pocket and I never lose my glasses. And I don't want to turn up looking like I work for an energy company. That is the top tip, actually, is don't turn up with the most amazing pop-up thing or anything like that, because they will just assume you work for an energy company. So be friendly. I also tend to make it quite personal. So I will give anecdotes to my clients about how I've lived with prepayment meters myself, how I currently live with storage heaters and how much I hate them. And also how I've lived in cold homes and how I've dealt with them in the past. And when I talk to them about ways to save energy around their homes, I will be compassionate. I'm not telling them to turn their heating down. You've got to take into consideration their circumstances. So it could be that they've got health conditions that mean that they struggle with colder temperatures. Could be that originally they are from a warmer country and actually having their heating lower than 25 degrees is going to be a real struggle for them this winter because they're going to be too cold. So you've got to have a look. And in that kind of situation, I'll have a look to see if there's other things that I could think of. And a lot of it is like piecing together a puzzle. So again, by being really chatty and friendly with them, eventually they'll start telling you stuff that they hadn't originally told you. And I think a really good example of this is a couple of weeks ago, I had a client referred to me, and I think she was referred to me because she wanted some energy saving tips and she was a bit worried about the price rises. Anyway, I was chatting to her for a while and blah, blah, blah. We got talking, and eventually she told me that she'd not had a working boiler for 10 years. I was like, oh my God, how have you been coping? She's in her 70s. It's like she washes by boiling water in a saucepan on the stovetop. I'm like, oh no. Okay, so, and that was a real, if I had just gone in, given her a bit of energy advice and not had a conversation with her about how she was doing, how she was coping with life and just, the weather, it would never have come out because she didn't think that was something we could help with. To be honest, I couldn't get a replacement boiler for her, but I could refer her to services that could support her. And it was like, oh, thank God I had that conversation with her because she'd also just had a fall. So she was really struggling to heat up the water on the cooker. So it's stuff like that that really brings it home that being a person to your clients is the most important thing. So I'll talk to them about when I had prepayment meters and they used to like start beeping in the middle of the night and then I would have to put them on emergency and try and remember to top them up the next morning. And when I talk to them about that, I'll often say, well, to be honest, if I'd had a smart prepayment meter, my life would have been much easier. That's a good example of why you might find one more useful. And then go, oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Or I might talk to them about my storage heaters, and particularly if they're also on electric, I'll say, well, we don't use our immersion heater because neither of us have baths. We don't need it for anything. So we switch it off. Saves us loads of money every year. And they'll be a, oh, moment. Or I'll get them to send me a photograph of their heating controls or their boiler controls, because loads of people don't know how to use their heating controls. And I can talk them through it. They find them completely daunting. To be honest, so do I usually. So I will always look up the instructions online and go, right, let's say press that 6 times, that 8 times. So that's kind of gives you a bit of an idea of why I think this kind of advice is really important. Also because people to pay, they are very low income, and one of the things that you find in that kind of situation is they're not accessing national news, so they don't know what help is available to them. They don't know about the Priority Service Register for energy or for water. Absolutely none of them know about water help. So they don't know about help with the social tariff for water. None of them know about the £400 energy rebate they're getting. Honestly, I've met almost nobody in the last couple of months who knows they're getting it, particularly prepayment meter customers who are going to be getting vouchers through the post, and they're not going to be opening those letters from their energy company. It's a bit of a minefield, and I'm extremely concerned about that. So the top message that I'm sending out to advisors, is make sure all your social media messaging is focusing on those prepayment meter customers, because it's all right if they've got a smart meter that it'll just go ping onto their account. Lovely, great. But for most of them, they're not on them. It's also, I've no idea what's going to happen for customers who've got, like, really old school, probably renting for years, have got British Gas for gas and EDF or SSE for electric, both prepayment meters. Where are they getting the vouchers from? Who's sending them? They don't know. I don't know. I can't find anything about it. We can't find anything about it. They don't know what they're going to get. They might even get half and half. Who knows? So it's all a bit of a minefield out there at the moment. And like Alex said, it changes all the time. So one of the things I would strongly advise doing is join the National Energy Action Fuel Poverty forums, actually, because they're great for helping you keep up to date with policy. We have one a quarter, it's free, and I chair it, so it's extra good. I don't do the policy bit though, because that's really not my thing. But they're unfortunately they're still online. We hope to do them in person again in the future, but it starts in November. I think it's the 5th of November, actually, the London and South East one. We've still got capacity because it's online. I think we've got a good 60 plus people already signed up, so get in there. It's great networking as well. We're also going to have a conference in January. It was going to be inconveniently the week of the Queen's funeral, so that had to get cancelled, but you can join us actually in person in Birmingham. We do sometimes have lower levels of joining fees as well for the conference. I haven't committed to plug any, but just that's kind of useful stuff because it's great networking. And one of the other things I was going to say is just keep a check on what's going on in your local area. So changing all the time, little pots of funding popping up in different places all over the shop. You know, you could very easily find a solution to your client's issues just by talking to another frontline worker. I find that all the time. So make sure people know who you are, how you can help their clients and how they can help your clients, because you will join everything up really nicely. I realise I talk very fast because I get very excited and very enthusiastic about fuel poverty, as you can tell. Partly because I've been doing it for such a long time. You've got to keep your levels up. But the other thing I wanted to say was look after yourselves this winter. It's going to be the worst winter for energy advisors in the history of the universe. I'm being completely honest about this. It's clients from a couple of years ago who've got my number, who are phoning me up asking me for top-up vouchers, who I've had to say, I'm sorry, we haven't got any at the moment. And they're not used to us not having any this time of year. We had some funding not quite work out, so we've got a gap. So it's a bit heartbreaking. And you will have clients in tears and threatening suicide. So it's really important you make sure you've got policies in place to safeguard yourselves. Really, really important. If you don't have that already, talk to your managers, get some support and get some training around mental health support, both for you and your clients, because you're going to want to know what to do with these situations, because unfortunately they are going to happen. They're already happening to me and my colleagues on a national basis. So, you know, look after yourselves, take breaks. That's really important. And I think the most important thing, one of my managers said to me this week when I was starting to get a bit tearful because I'd got so much stuff happening and clients calling me, she said, you're not an emergency service. You can't help everybody. And sometimes you can't help them at all. There are other agencies that you can refer them to, or sometimes you just have to say that you can't help, and that's that. And it's horrible to have to do that, but sometimes we can't do anything. And in which case it may be that you're referring to adult social care because there's a safeguarding issue. It might be that you're just having to give them the local citizens advice telephone number and hope that they can get an appointment there. So I know it's all a bit doom and gloom at the moment, but like I said, you know, there is this very exciting 67, 68 quid that people are getting over the next couple of months, which actually, for people who are already very energy efficient, is actually going to make quite a big difference to certainly to some of the clients that I've been working with. So it's not all awful, but yeah, I'm sitting here with a rug on my lap, so hoping to warm up next week. So yeah, that's a whistle-stop tour from National Energy Action. You're always more than welcome to get in touch with me after today if there's anything that I can help with. Brain full of stuff, can't share it all today, but yeah, come along to the forum if you like. I'll be there. Come along to our conference. I'm also hoping to be there as well in Birmingham, and do ask any questions if you have any.
Can you see the chat, Rebecca? Thank you so much for that.
I can, yes. Oh yes, so can we have some basic lines of prepayment needs to customers that can share just what I've told you? There's nothing online to guide them at all. So the guidance is they need to look out for the post. Luckily, some of them have had posts in their energy companies recently. Unfortunately, it was telling them about the price rise. So they might be quite concerned about getting new posts from their suppliers. So the advice is, if they're on standard prepayment meters, look out for an envelope in the post once a month from now until the end of March. We don't know when they're going to come out either, and it's probably different for every energy supplier. Belinda has asked how you join, and Said has very kindly popped in the link to the forum. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. Lovely. Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, I'd just like to say thank you for popping in, and that you reminded me actually about one of my bugbears about when people sit behind tables rather than to sit side by side on the corner of a table. It's just that extra barrier, and just stuff like that can make a huge difference.
Definitely. And if I am at like a marketplace event or something like that, I'll always make sure there are at least 2 chairs. If I have got a table, at least 2 chairs in front of the table, and I'll usually stand up instead of sit down as well. And I always say hello to everybody who's walking past, even if they're not really looking. So it's, it takes practice. You do sometimes have to fake it till you make it, as they say, because sometimes you're not going to be in that headspace. Sometimes you won't have the energy for engaging with the public. You're just going to have to pretend, just pretend to be me for half an hour. That'll be fine.
Oh, thank you so much. And I think it's a real sign of the times that, one of the kind of key messages coming out of NEA is about self-care and looking after your team, whether it's volunteers, especially if there might only be 1 or 2 energy champions or advisors that you connect regularly, even if it's just a debrief or just go crying to each other. So thank you so much. And yes,
just to butt in for a second, Syed has a question.
I was just about to move on, so go on, squeeze in, Mr. Ahmed.
Hi Rebecca, Syed Ahmed here. So I'm fortunate enough that I see lots of really good stats from NEA, and one of the things that always sits in my mind, and is something that I was fortunate enough to tell the Deputy Mayor for London, which then led to, I think, one of the advice lines in London, was just how much money can be saved through some of the NEA advice. But that then begs the question, how do you evaluate the success post giving advice? So is there a route in which you've tried to have ongoing discussion? So if you've given advice and you've signposted them to something, how do you know whether or not they were successful in getting that information through?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. So there's a couple of bits to that. So we do the classic sending out a feedback form with a free post envelope. Unfortunately, many of my clients get them in the post, quickly send me a picture on WhatsApp and go, what is this? Is it for my energy company? It's all right. Like, you can actually get a £50 voucher if you fill it in. So just do it. It's fine. I said, just make it up. It's fine. We don't care. No, I don't. But yeah, so that's one route that we take. The issue that we have, like any agency, if we make referrals to other organizations, is it just kind of like goes into the ether a little bit. So I'm very careful about who I refer people into. I will often actually, phone the organization first and say what you're going to do, how you're going to do this, particularly if it's other energy agencies, because most of my one-to-one support, obviously at the moment, is on the phone. So a lot of the time, if I've got clients, say in London or somewhere else, and I need them to have a home energy visit because there's something that I just can't get to the bottom of, or I need somebody to actually physically look at the meter for me, or just see what's going on, it's an online referral form. And always makes me really anxious. And to be honest, there's no way that you can find out what support they've got, apart from what I will often do is I'll actually say to the client, let me know how you get on. And they usually do, to be honest. So if they've not had any contact from the agency they've referred me to within a month, they will let me know, because they've got my contact details and I'm that person that they keep coming back to. So that's really the only way you can track these things, unfortunately.
Well, that
If you've made,
dovetails-
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, carry on.
I guess there's no magic bullet, and it's just that ongoing. I mean, that's the bit about community energy groups working with the community. They may well bump into that person again through the kind of formal routes that they kind of adopt in that area. But that's really good. And just one other little anecdote that I was told by one of your colleagues is that I think in one of your advice lines, you invited Bayes colleagues to come in and sit in and hear what your advisors were having to help people with. And after an hour, you know, these people who are policy wonks, you know, typically recent graduates, you know, coming into policy areas, they were visibly shocked by the stresses that of not only the clients, but having the advisors and telling how they can handle them. So the points that you made about looking after the advisors is extremely well made. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much. And NEA are on all the socials and Facebook and all the good things. So that actually dovetails perfectly to our next speaker, Giles Reed from Thinking
And
Works.
I'm gonna go now because I've got to phone my client back.
No problem. We understand.
Lovely
that.
to meet you all.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
So Giles will introduce himself, but they've been going, I think, about 10 years and cover a large area of Southwest London. And one of the projects that I know that you're involved with is I was thinking of the redress one, which I know is only a little bit of what you do, but that was interesting because it's taking more of a case note shared referral pathways thing rather than usual way of just shouting into the ether and hoping the referrals come back to you. But anyway, I'm delighted to introduce Giles.
Cheers, thanks very much. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name's Giles and I'm the director at Thinking Works, and we're a not-for-profit that has contracts in South West London with the councils at Kingston, Merton, Sutton, Richmond and Wandsworth. I've been working in field poverty for 15 years and running Thinking Works for 10. And really what I wanted to talk today about, because I think what Rebecca has covered and what Alex has covered as well, gives the broad side of the flavour of what advisors are facing, and certainly we are no different, and those issues are all, we can just echo everything that's been said. But so what I wanted to talk about was currently what's happening, which is just that there is enormous pressures on all the services. So how do we quickly increase capacity in a sector which traditionally is seen as something that you can just become an advisor, when I can tell you now that that is a total fallacy, and it's a very, very professional role that, and I think this has been touched upon by both Alex and Rebecca. There's a set of skills that you need as an advisor that, yeah, I think is sometimes it's not seen as being as valuable as it is. So how do you, when we know that finding very experienced advisors that can handle it? I mean, if I look at some of the billing queries that I have on my desk at the moment, I'll give you a prime example of one I had yesterday. So we've just had this announcement that says, under the energy price guarantee, we can have guaranteed unit rates for the next 2 years, 34p for electric and 10.3p for gas. I saw yesterday a letter from EDF with rates above that on their standard variable, right? So they're not even adhering to this. So you're then trying to then unpick that, which involves speaking to the energy supplier, and taking many hours. So we know there are complex issues out there, and to ramp up your advice services and to bring people in there, how do you do that? And I'll just basically talk to you briefly about how we're doing it. And I think the key thing is to tier your approach to the advice. So as you're taking on new volunteers who are less experienced, I mean, everyone fundamentally should have the baseline, the NEA qualification, and basically, as has been echoed by Alex as well, going out and doing as many online webinars, things. There's lots and lots of free training out there. Very much sign up to NEA. They send things out all the time for that, but there's others as well. But grab any free training with both hands, but that's still your fresh recruits are going to come in there. And, you know, as we've described, and Saeed has echoed this as well, it's tough out there, it's brutal. And if you have your new recruits picking up the phone and then speaking to somebody straight away who's got a very complicated issue, it's bad all around, because the person on the end of the phone is desperate. Your new recruit doesn't know how to handle it, and it all ends up a bit of a mess. So the way that we are kind of trying to deal with that is that you use your really experienced team. And I'm very lucky that the team I have has been with me for 10 years. And so what they're kind of doing is that I'm moving them up to be just extremely complex case handlers. And I sit basically taking on the hardest, craziest cases, whether it's looking at, you know, landlord and tenant act or other things going on there. Then I get the crazy stuff, and it sort of filters down, and the experienced team do that. And so then what you have is that the new recruits can deal with more of the straightforward things. They can fill in a water help form and get 50% discount on water. They can go through what's happening with these payments through Rishi's previous announcement and explain, yes, you're going to get 2 payments of 66 and 4 of 67. This is how it's going to come in. It's not going to come as money. It's going to come off your bill. And then, you know, describe if you've got universal credit, what's coming to you. If you've got pension credit, what's coming to you, and changes the warm hand discount. These are things that you can have fact sheets for and are reasonably straightforward. And so that's really what you want. You don't want any of your experienced team dealing with any of that. So the key thing with this is having a very good triage system. I mean, I've spent some time, money, sort of developing some software to try and help guide advisors through the survey. But I realized that is not going to be for every organization, because you're not going to have the money or ability to necessarily do that quickly. But it's still, if you have a system where that person who's coming in and wanting to book an advice session, that you can find out, the first key question is, what do you need help with? What's your primary concern? You want to cover everything that you can do, because, and then Rebecca was saying this, well, sometimes, you know, somebody will invite you in because they want a free LED bulb, and it will then transpire that, you know, they don't have a heating system, or there is a safeguarding concern, or there's something else going on there. So very much you want to make sure you cover the bases, but their main concern has to be the heart of the core sort of part of the advice. And so in that initial part, saying, you know, what you know, do you want help with today? If they then at that point start describing to you a situation going, I've got an 18-month billing issue that's been going on, battling with insert any supplier, then you know full well, then you can have an honest chat with them and say, okay, this is sort of a bit beyond my experience, but within our team or within a group of teams, and this is something that I want to explore more, because I realize that there are lots of groups out there that simply just don't have within them that level of expertise. So can we broaden more widely? And this is very much where and I'll sort of come on to thoughts about that, but effectively that's what you need to be able to do. You need your new team and those with less experience dealing with all of the easy stuff, but at the point of when someone comes in is having that honest chat with them, because then you're not left in this antagonistic situation where neither of you can help each other and it ends up a disaster. You can just be honest, and everyone appreciates that. You just go, I don't know about this grant program, or I don't know about your particular tenancy issue, but I know somebody that does, and you know, they'll be in touch with you, and you can give them sort of a time frame, and then at least they kind of know. And it's that scaling up that I think is key to this. And I think it's also very key, because I realize with trying to scale up as well, it's also very important to work out how advice services operate in an area, because if you have lots of different advice services happening in one area, they're both, and Rebecca and Alex were talking about getting referrals from frontline teams. And the issue that you can have if you've got multiple organizations seeming from a service user perspective to be doing the same thing, if then you're kind of all going to the social prescribers, hey, we offer energy advice. You've got 3 or 4 organizations. The frontline teams don't know who to refer to. So my feeling with these is to find who the sort of the key organizations are and work with them, because they will need capacity. Like, so for me, I need more capacity in our patch. And what I really, 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 really want is for referrals that come into us to have a situation where we can refer on to other other organisations some of the easier, lower level work, so we can deal with more of the complex cases. And then at least there's less of fighting for referrals, and you're trying to also go, hey, look, there's 3 organisations that come or refer to us, but then it comes through to one central number, and then it can go out to the other teams there. So I think we very much need to do more banding together and to use that experience, because I think in the sector there probably isn't enough in general anyway, but having a sort of, and then a wider sort of mentoring program, because as I think the level of demand is not about to drop off in the next few years, I think. So there is a need for this. So very much, I'd be keen to speak to other organisations, particularly working in our area, to work out how we can work better and sort of bolster each other services. But yeah, so that's just some from our side. But yeah, that's kind of how we're looking predominantly at trying to ramp up advice. And the other key thing I think to say, and it comes back to this point that everyone's made on this, is that people are in crisis, they are desperate, and it's understanding that. And this is where having access to something like fuel vouchers is really, really huge. And this is because we've certainly found that if somebody has no money on their meter and they can't afford to cook food for their children or put the heating on and keep warm, you can shout to them to the rafters and go, hey, you can have a couple of light bulbs and I'll come round and show you how you can save some money with some behavior change. But then they're just so in the crisis that the long-term support, which will be the stuff that really changes it, a £49 voucher is not going to cure someone's energy issues. But we've found that the only way that they will speak to us and let us come in and do those longer term changes is by having those fuel vouchers. They deal with the immediate crisis. They mean that the people trust your service. They're kind of like, well, I was in crisis, and yeah, you helped me that day. Come round, talk to me about my my energy, and then it's those referrals that can go on. And the project that Alex was talking about is it's called Energy Max, that we're doing with Citizens Advice in Sutton, and that is predominantly funding for them to have 1.5, I don't know how you have half a person, but it's 1.5 people to specifically deal with debt and financial inclusion and help people access benefits. And it's been a fantastic program, because that, what it does is it means that we've this dedicated officers, so that when we're referring people into that service, we can say, hey, I'm going to refer you to, and there's a couple of named people, and it just makes this much better pathway. And then we get feedback on the cases, and if there's issues with document collection, we can work together on that, because we're working across the region. So the but as part of sort of Syed's question really about the follow-up, this is something we're pushing with changing the funding model. Traditionally, the way that services that we have are like, it's one hit only. We'll pay you for 1-2 hours with somebody, that's it, because their problems are magically cured in this time, and you never have to go back, and you never have to follow up, which is kind of insane. And so what we are trying to push for is to move to one which is more of a casework model, because we realize that it can be, there's an initial conversation, then there is the mid-term conversation with the behavior change, and there's long-term also then with the follow-up. But that needs to be priced in. So particularly, we don't have any volunteers. So it may be different if you've got a volunteer organisation, because you can perhaps offer that through your volunteers. But it is very true of what everyone said here. If you do have a volunteer organisation, your volunteers are going to need a lot of support this winter, because it's going to be hard on them. And I guess if you're a paid employee, then there's you feel that there's some remuneration for what can be a very tough time out there. So yeah, it's one to look at. But I think that we're going to find more complex cases, and broadly, I think it's about dealing with the immediate crisis, and then with the follow-up, and then hopefully, yeah, working together more with organisations in particular areas. But anyway, I shall leave it there and open to questions.
Oh, fantastic. Brilliant, Giles. Thank you so much. A very sage summary of where we're at and how to be effective on our energy advice. And lastly, we come to the lovely Sharifa, who is working for the Bromley by Bow Centre, which has got a great reputation for being joined up with not just sustainability and climate change things, but also health and well-being approaches. So let's hear from Sharifa now.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Actually, I don't really know how to follow on from Rebecca and Giles. They actually covered a lot of the groundwork, and what they said is everything you need to know in a nutshell. It is hard work, what we're all doing, but we just got to remind ourselves that the aim game is to help our local residents, our families, our clients, to make sure that at least they have access to someone, whether you can or can't help them. At least they can go to somebody and see, is there any help? Them knowing there is no help is almost what they actually need to know. So they're not thinking at the back of the mind, is there something more for me? At least you get able to answer them that, these are the things that you have access to, these are the things we don't have at the moment, what can we do to signpost you? And that is more than enough for some people. But we got to really look at how we use our skill sets. Very quickly, just like Giles said, that if you are an experienced caseworker, do you want to be, not wasting your time, sorry, I should put that differently. Do you need to be looking at the very smaller, quick turnarounds? So looking at colleagues at the centre who can support you to make sure the information is out there. So what the Bromley Bio Centre is doing, we're holding once a month a workshop where families can come and learn about how to save energy, looking at small measures about energy efficiency, with the opportunity to have access to an advisor to have these small conversations. Our waiting time at the moment is 2 weeks, which is great considering a couple of weeks ago it was at 6 weeks. So for some people, it's actually in their best interest to come to a workshop, get the information that they need to support themselves, but also talk to advisor, hey, is there anything more I can do? What can I do? What access do I have? And we can very quickly signpost them or, address these conversations very quickly. I don't know if my slide's going to go up, but very quickly, I just want to make sure, even if you're not an experienced advisor, the conversations you could be having is just listening to the situation and really investigating, is there anything else? The Bromley Bio Centre works in a different kind of way where we look at other issues that is affecting a person's life. So for example, it could be somebody who has no heating, but there's other issues, social isolation, mental health, etc. So we try and kind of support the whole package rather than we did our energy bit and we just move along. So we try and see if we can continue that support structure, making sure that all that information, is given to them, giving them a handout so they're not panicked about what did I hear, did I get all the information, I got to go back and share it with my family. So we make sure they walk away with documents. The Bromley Bio Centre has made lots of documents, which if you don't mind, Alex, I'll put a link in the description box where you can access all the information that we've been producing. This is from a project called Empower, where we were working with community members who are already volunteering within their own community to support them to not become energy advisors, but to help people with energy matters. So really kind of soft touch advice, how to apply for warm home discount, which is the most basic thing that you won't believe that people don't know about, because there's barriers there. For example, English as a second language, a barrier. And my role last year was going around all the ESOL classes in Tower Hamlets and doing an energy workshop so that these families had access. And the simple things, feedback we often got back is, it was that easy. Are you telling me with a few clicks I can apply for a warm home discount? So, we just got to make sure that people have access to information or have ways to access information. But yeah, I'll put the link of our resources on the website, and please, use them, share them with your clients and your families. I see a lot of questions about fuel vouchers. This is a bit of a mystery to all of us. We just don't know when it comes, how it comes. We're suddenly given a pot of funds and says, spend it. So we have been, the Bromley Bio Centre has been given a pot of funds from Bigate to support families with fuel vouchers. We're lucky to give 3 times £49 vouchers, but the limitation is that we work with Tower Hamlets, Newham and Hackney. So it's about networking, joining up with your local authority, your local CAB, join the NEA 100%. You get a lot of information from there, and other advice agencies. Just join any networking agencies. Send emails that says, do you know where we can access any emergency fuel vouchers? Families sometimes from one organization are limited to maybe one voucher every 6 months, but there is no reason why they can't go to different agencies to access that support if it's much needed. But you can make that judgment when you see your families. I'm going to stop there so you got time for questioning, Alex.
Oh, lovely. Those really salient points actually about joined up approach, quality of information. Actually, I told Sharifa that quite often I've used Bromley by Bowes literature on their leaflets because I think they're really good as exemplars, because you often like just hit it really nicely. So yeah, so if having the right tools, being networked correctly, thinking about how to reach people that wouldn't come across the information in other ways, utilising volunteers, all really important. So I'd like to open it up now to any of the key questions that are coming out from in the chat. We've got lots of useful links already in there. Let's take a couple of questions. Maybe I can answer one actually about pick up the point about prepayment vouchers. There are different ways these can get funded. You might get the money from public health in your local authority. You might get it from, as you mentioned, BGET, I think that's his British Gas Energy Trust. If you've applied to them, or redress funding, or other sort of larger funders, you can include getting funding those within that. There's also organisations like Fuel Bank, which I've got mixed feelings about, but there are different places. I hate the phrase, but how to skin a cat 99 times. There's it is out there, but quite often it can be asking fellow people that work in this space. Actually, off the back of that, on the 12th of October, I'm launching just a forum for energy advisors to come together, share best practice, swap war stories, and support each other just for this on a monthly basis, just to trial it for 3 months to see if it works. Any other questions, burning questions while I scroll through the chat, anybody, if you'd like to come in? Let's have a look. Jessica, planning to run some workshops. Fantastic. The CSE project. Anyone needing further casework, don't plan to hold any kind, would still need to cover insurance to cover that. I would say I would look at having that covered off, because even if you're not holding clients' details, that's a GDPR issue, which is different from providing advice and being active maybe in someone else's venue and all the other bits and pieces as well. So I would have a look at that. Let's have another quick scroll. If anyone wants to jump in with a question, do have a go. Prepayment customer vouchers, yeah, maybe we could create a resource and just have it on the Fuel Poverty CEL page for issues around prepayments. Actually, I know someone who it's their favourite topic and they're quite expert, and they also are a really good writer, so I can ask if they would mind sharing some of their resources. So that's a solution for that one. So in summary, and I'd just like to wrap up that sales, I don't think Flavia's on the call anymore. Let's have a quick look. Flavia, sorry. She hasn't left because I haven't mispronounced her name. No, she was here. I don't know where she's gone. We've got upcoming a meeting that CELSI has got a relationship for community advocates, i.e. people giving community advice in the community, if you refer clients through to get successful warmer homes funding, which is currently on offer from the Greater London Authority, you can get a referral fee. I think it's £100 per client. So that can pay you to do some more outreach work. So that upcoming workshop, if Lorraine or Catherine could put a link in the chat, that would be lovely, because Flavia's not here. And also a shout out for next month's event, which we've got upcoming, which will be looking at everything the GLA has got on offer around how their telephone-based energy advice service will work, what's going on with the cost of living hub, and all that good stuff, and any exciting things with the London Community Energy Fund. And just last thoughts, it's tough out there, but doing this work is so rewarding. I mean, I remember one time thanks Vicky, I was in Woolwich Library and this woman was walking past to put her book back in. She ended up crying, she nearly made me cry. By the end of it, she basically admitted she was feeling suicidal. She ended up insisting on giving me a hug. This was pre-COVID. And that wasn't the first time, but she really stuck in my mind, because you know, she wouldn't look how you think somebody was really struggling and on the edge of doing something silly because of their energy situation. And we helped her in so many different ways, which made a huge difference. And this wasn't counting even when you could still switch and save money. There were so many other ways. And so having that much of an impact on people's lives is really good. And we need an army of us doing this. We don't just need what's currently there. We need more advisors, we need more trained people coming up to be able to do work and a career in this space, as well as utilising more volunteers. So lastly, thank you to our amazing speakers, so rich in nutrients and information, and to launch the poll to find out how you found this hour. Could you have had a better lunchtime, or has this given you indigestion, or was it useful or interesting, or if there's anything else? So we just got a very simple question. This is just to see that we are on target with what we're trying to achieve with doing these workshops, or if we're totally off the mark.
Also, to point out that it's anonymous, so we can't see who says what, so please, we would like your honest truth. Also, while everyone's doing that, Alex, what was the other link you asked for? I put the next month's workshop, but I can't remember the other one you asked for.
There's two things. There's the Celsi workshop on being the
I don't have that link. Okay, I'll look for it.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Sarah or Sarah. And we also the forum for advisors, the monthly forum on the 12th of October link. I should have that, but I have got to thank everybody for turning up this lunchtime on a Friday, and hopefully we will see you again next month. And if you aren't already a member of Community Energy London, please do join, because it's the best pound you will spend all year. Very easy, very quick. Do it via the website. We'd love to have you join us.
Okay, I can't find either of those links, so I will put them on our Twitter account later today when I have found them. So just keep an eye on there, everyone.
And it can go on the slides.
Yep.
Oh, lovely to see you, and thank you so much, Sharifa. Brilliant, because I know time is very desperate when you've got lots of clients on. So thank you very much for giving your time today, all speakers. Thank you
Very much. Perfect.
and have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.